I'm Jerry Dykstra, and I serve as the Executive Director of the Christian Reformed Church in North America. I've been involved in denominational leadership for about the last 4 years. And over that 4 years, I've become more and more aware that the issue of integration is an important issue to the Christian Reformed Church and to the faith community as a whole. You know, God created all people in His own image. We're all created to be in the image of God and need to be respected as image bearers of God. And so when we see what's happening in the present situation in the United States in terms of immigration, it has to give us all pause, because we're seeing families that are being disrupted, we're seeing lives that are being disruptive, we're seeing our economy impacted in negative ways and in positive ways, and there's a lot of misunderstanding about immigration. And so I think the faith community really has to be the one to engage. When John painted a picture of heaven in Revelations, he talked about the fact that there would be people from every tribe and every nation gathered before the throne of God. And we need to recognize that there are many tribes and many nations, and we need to find ways to engage people from those different cultures and those different communities. And I think we can do that if we have a good immigration policy. A couple of years ago, the issue came up when people were asking about a number of undocumented workers who were attending Christian Reformed churches. And so over the last few years, we've been looking seriously at the issue and really doing some good theological study on the issue. Now, that final report isn't ready yet. It will be out in about probably another 6 months to a year. And I'm looking forward to that. But there's been some really good theological work done in terms of God's engagement of what we would call immigrants. Abraham himself was an immigrant. He was referred to as a stranger in the land. He didn't even have a piece of property on which to bury his family. He had to buy land in order to do that. And so, you know, we have to look at this issue from a biblical perspective. We are all in some ways strangers in a land. And so as the church looks at that, we need to think about it, not just in terms of the economy, not just in terms of the politics, those are important, but really what does it mean biblically to be a welcoming and a gathering people? One of the major things that we're looking at in the United States is comprehensive immigration reform, and it's sorely needed. What I have learned is that not everyone understands that in the same way. In fact, they run from one end of the spectrum to the other. There are those who would see comprehensive immigration reform as taking all of those who are undocumented and sending them back to their home countries, whereas others would see it as total amnesty. And I think we have to recognize that in a good comprehensive immigration reform bill, we are going to have to, as a nation, balance that desire to be open and welcoming, and at the same time recognize that we are a sovereign nation and we have responsibility to the people who are citizens of this nation to protect the borders. And so we're going to have to find that balance. What we do know is that presently the system we have isn't working. The present system tears families apart. The present system allows people to be in the country for many, many years under the radar, and then all of a sudden their lives are disrupted. They're returned to places that they don't even know. I know of an example. We often think of this just in terms of people coming from the southern hemisphere. I know of an example of a young man who came with his parents as a young child and was deported back to the Netherlands. And he went to a place he had never lived. He didn't know the language. He didn't have any family there. And yet, because he had not done the proper paperwork, he was sent out of the country. We can't allow that to happen in our nation. We can't allow people people's lives to be disrupted and relationships to be destroyed. It just simply isn't acceptable.